Well, blimey, is it the end of the year already? I hardly had time to notice given all the insanity in the current news cycle. Between the ever-escalating online culture wars as well as the actual shooting wars, one can hardly be blamed for sleepwalking through the entire year with a bucket of dopamine over their heads. So, with that said, here are the Panda Awards for 2024. I would have preferred calling it the Panda Games Awards, but given all the nonsense we had to put up with over the past year, it's completely possible that Jeff Keighley would break both my kneecaps over royalty fees or something. And obviously, I still couldn't be bothered to make any physical awards, so if you are one of the winners, then feel free to add it to your Wikipedia profiles or something if that's the kind of thing that really matters to you. Considering how I am no longer able to open a printer doc without the help of Google, it's becoming increasingly obvious that gamers like myself are in desperate need for a defibrillator to the brain, otherwise I'd be clubbing my monitor during the next power outage, which is why the award for most innovative level design is for developers who refuse to simplify gameplay down to just walking along linear corridors, and who instead choose to innovate with new ideas. Now originally I was gonna give this award to The Plucky Squire, a game whose design team kept things fresh by constantly juggling between 2D and 3D levels, but while combining old ideas still technically counts as innovation, there really wasn't anything featured that was truly novel, and so instead I'm giving this award to Cocoon, whose puzzle and level design was so mind-bogglingly creative that it would not surprise me to find that Geometric Interactive had sealed up its offices and pumped in psychedelics during the entire development cycle. The most squandered potential award is for games who showed up at a pitch meeting with solid ideas only to be immediately escorted out of the building after failing to realize they had forgotten to wear pants that day. Under the Waves comes to mind, a game who's clearly trying to mooch off the success of Firewatch by breaking into the home and ransacking their cliff notes, only to forget to take all the actual valuable bits like the well-written dialogue or the interesting characters. But then I remembered Sally Face, a point-and-click puzzle game who toyed with the idea of playing as a possible serial killer, only to shoot itself in the foot right before the finishing line by pinning all its supernatural elements on the friendly neighborhood satanic cult, who happens to be completely immune from the law as well as possess more manpower than the fucking US Coast Guard. Still, to truly squander one's potential would imply that there had to be an interesting premise to begin with, and so the real winner for this award is none other than Closer to Distance, a game that attempted to tell an emotional story of a small community coping with loss, only to burst both their shins trying to land into a narrative kiddie pool spread way too thin by being forced to follow over a dozen characters. For most of the year, it seemed like Before Your Eyes was gonna easily sweep this award, as it's genuinely been quite a long time since I played a game that made me tear up at night thinking about how short life really is, or whether or not I should be pursuing my dreams or exploring new relationships. But then I played a game called Neva, where some lady tries to protect an orphan wolf cub from a dying world filled with monsters. And just like that, all my existential problems were quickly forced out of my mind after what turned out to be a 3-week-long binge of nothing but puppy and fox videos on the internet. Not sure if giving this award to Neva says more about me than the actual game, but hopefully I won't end up as one of those crazy hermits on the news who gets eaten by his pets or something. In an industry that wouldn't move out of its safe space if it was in the way of an incoming train, it's no real shock to see old IPs be dragged out of the ground like it's the second coming of Christ. Metal Slug Reloaded comes to mind, a series whose popularity peaked around the time DVDs were invented back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. Fate Samurai Remnant also deserves an honorable mention, a franchise whose only contribution to storytelling involves slapping on a hot pair of titties on every historical character while reenacting the exact same fucking plot for the 17th bazillion time. But the game who truly deserves this award is none other than Star Wars Dark Forces. Coming from a franchise whose entire year had been nothing but one disastrous headline after another, it's hardly a surprise to find your corporate overlords resorting to grave robbing as a means of staving off potential bankruptcy. Well done, you miserable tossers. They ain't a single thing on this planet better at digging themselves into holes as good as you. Apart from US foreign policy, obviously. Signalist was my first pick for this award, a survival horror game which tells the bittersweet story of a lone android navigating through a psychic nightmare in the hopes of fulfilling her final promise to the one person she ever loved. But then, to my delight, I happened to stumble upon Mouthwashing, a little indie title about a crew of couriers stranded in space and forced to live their final moments within the confines of a claustrophobic cargo ship, with nothing to keep them company other than their own paranoia, what's left of their humanity, and an endless supply of mouthwash. I would say that this game has the potential to be remembered as an all-time classic like Moby Dick but set in space, but don't let it get to your heads, developers. 2024's Planet of the Chocolate Lesbian Award was a tough call for me as it was a rather slow year when it comes to naughty games. Too often did I find myself playing another generic RPG or muddling through the classic predictable visual novel script where all our characters are selling their clothes for parking space or some shit. But that being said, there were two games that stood out for me this year. Those of course being Yare Mono and Third Crisis. The former is a Pokemon clone where you play as a chubby hypnotist fulfilling his lifelong dream to collect every monster and venereal disease known to science, and the latter being a superhero parody featuring a discount tracer who is slowly broken down by a world so depraved that gentleman's relish is the most socially accepted form of currency. Out of a personal disdain for the Pokemon series, I'm somewhat inclined to give this award to Third Crisis. Some may call this bias, but I call it retribution for my wasted childhood years. The Vibrating Pen Award remembers a time forgotten to our history books, a time when storytelling in video games were more about exploring compelling themes or building interesting worlds with strong character arcs, as opposed to what its current role is, that of course being a checklist mandated by corporate hacks as a last-ditch attempt to virtue signal their way out of the fourth circle of hell. Pentiment was a frontline contender for this award, Obsidian's point-and-click adventure game about solving a murder plot in 16th century Europe, all the while exploring the divisive nature of church reformation, but I think I'm instead going to give this award to the Class of 09 trilogy, a series whose writers were not only brave enough to delve into difficult subjects like toxic relationships and social insecurity, but who also happen to have some of the most genuinely funny satire I've seen up to date. Having grown accustomed to seeing shit on the front page, I can now confidently state that bad writing can take on various forms, like a fecal sculpture in the hands of a special needs kid. Wargroove 2, for instance, a game in which you command vast armies on a battlefield, struggled to come up with any logical reason for why two nations should be at war with each other in the first place. Whereas Lollipop Chainsaw's shittiness comes in the form of a plotline that can be summed up as Captain Bubblehead murders the state of California, featuring a protagonist so dense and empty of thought that you could have her double as a paperweight. But then there are some games that really puts in the effort to take shitty writing to new undiscovered territory by combining every bad idea imaginable. Story points with no meaningful consequences, unlikable companions with the personality of an angsty teenager, cringy dialogue so wooden that you can use it to frame a house, yep, you name it. Take all the biggest don'ts known in the business, mix them with kerosene inside a horse's scrotum, and you get Dragon Age the Veilguard, a game whose writers not only managed to alienate all the fans of their earlier games by watering down all the dark fantasy elements, but whose team also had the incredibly dumb idea to sabotage their own story and characters in the service of pushing propaganda. Congratulations BioWare, you stupid twats. Not only have you successfully plundered your legacy for everything it's worth, but you also set back progressive ideology by several decades. Fuck you and the three-legged horse you rode in on. And so, another year comes to an end. A year of confusing moments, predictable failures, and some pleasant surprises. Hopefully the year of 2025 will be equally eventful, assuming of course we don't all find ourselves vaporized. Happy New Year. Hell yeah, looks like we all made it. Everybody good on what's about to go down? Cause once we get this puppy into the ground, shit's gonna really hit the... What the...
Hey guys.
Cloud? Is that you? What's going on? And what are you wearing?
It's Claudio now, and this is my new cocktail dress.
What the hell are you talking about, man?
Come to think of it, Jesse was pretty upset about something the other day.
I had a really great time today, Cloud.
Meh.
Do you wanna come inside and show me how good you are with that sword of yours?
Meh.
God damn it, brother! Get it together! When did you start thinking this way?
You know what I want. A second dance. Just the two of us. You turned the key. The engine roars with excitement.
Welcome to the Humvee Inn, Cloud. You seek my approval, do you? I understand.
I'd rather not talk about it if that's okay with you guys.
No, nobody's judging you. I mean, everybody here has their own secrets, right? Like, I for one, have been using the church basement to grow psychedelic flowers.
Oh, so that's why I'm always getting attacked by invisible enemies every time I hang out with you.
And I've been kidnapping orphans and training them as suicide bombers. Oh, come on, as if I'm the only one who's been doing that.
And as for Tifa? So you see, Claudia, there's no need to be embarrassed or anything.
So, you guys are just cool with this? Like, this won't change anything between us? And I can still come along to do some terrorism?
Of course, right guys?
Well, I suppose this doesn't really change anything.
Be still, my beating heart.
Aerith is right. I mean, what's a dress or two between friends?
I suppose when comparing to all the societal inequalities, the geopolitical conflicts, and the literal end to the fucking world, all this gender stuff really isn't all that important, and probably not worth making a big deal out of.
Exactly. Now what say you about forgetting all this LGBTQIA2S gobbledygook and help us murder more Shinra employees?
You said it, Barrett. And this time, I'll drive.
That's all, Aerith.
Wait, you're not still high right now, are you?